It was rather a plump thigh. Long years of well-regulated commuting had despoiled it of its youthful charm. It was a tight thigh and a fleshy one, yet it still reacted to pain. To such an extent, in fact, that Mr. Topper's sensation of trouble instantly gave way to one of mild reproach as he dropped Scollops softly thudding to the floor. This faint discord in the domestic tranquility caused Mrs. Cosmo Topper to look up from her needlework. Mr. Topper, glancing across the table, met his wife's eyes. It was just for a moment, then he looked quickly away, but why he did not know. "She yawned," he remarked by way of explanation. "Yawned and scratched." "I know it," apologized Mrs. Topper, mistaking his words for a direct accusation. "I've been doing it all evening. It must have been the veal." Topper watched his wife remove her sewing glasses and place them in their case. With an absorbed gaze, he followed her movements as she folded her sewing and wrapped it in a piece of linen, which she then deposited in a basket. At this point, his expression became almost desperate, then hopeless. No, there was going to be no change in the nightly routine. Glasses, case, linen, basket. If she would only reverse the procedure, or for once forget her glasses, that would be something. Meantime, Mrs. Topper, unconscious of tragedy, rose from her chair, came round to where her husband was sitting, and brushed his forehead with her lips. Then, referring once more in a pained voice to the haunting qualities of veal, she left the room. Mr. Topper listened to her firm step upon the stairs. A certain squeaking of boards apprised him of the fact that she had achieved the landing. For a moment he thought idly about veal in relation to his wife. Then he did an unusual thing. Instead of knocking out his pipe and locking in the cat whose vagrant nature had caused him some rather trying experiences in the past, he gently retrieved that animal from the floor and fell to studying an old atlas which he had plucked from an obscure shelf. "It made me sleepless, too," murmured Mrs. Topper an hour later, as her husband settled down beside her. And that night Mr. Topper dreamed of eating curried veal in Calcutta. He was surrounded by many maidens, all of whom partook amply of veal, and none of whom complained. It was delicious. He gorged himself. Chapter 2. Scollops looks inscrutable. Not until the following afternoon, which was Saturday and therefore free, was Mr. Topper able to localize his trouble. The discovery came to him as a shock, which gathered intensity as the days passed. It marked an epoch in his life. Even Mrs. Topper, who steadfastly refused to recognize changes taking place around her, detected something new and therefore annoying in her husband. But she reassured herself by believing that all stomachs have their off-seasons, and became almost pallidly cheerful when she considered the fact that her stomach's off-season was always on. It prevailed the year around. To Mrs. Topper it was an endless source of comfort to be able to trace all mystifying cases of conduct, even her own, to such a tangible and well-established institution as a stomach. It was Scollops again. Scollops draped on her master's knee with a Saturday afternoon mist swimming in her eyes. Scollops the inexplicable, narrowing infinity between two orange-colored slits. This it was that gave Mr. Topper the shock. For the first time in their 4 years of companionable association, Topper realized that the cat saw nothing, that is, nothing immediate. Although her yellow, searching gaze included him, it passed far beyond him, down distant vistas from which he was excluded. Caressing and condoning on their way, Scollops' eyes seemed to be roving through the ages, dwelling on appalling mysteries with the reminiscent indulgence of a satiated goddess. Looking into Scollops' eyes, Mr. Topper discovered that there were things he did not know, colors of life beyond his comprehension, impulses alien to his reason. With his wife's eyes, it was different. He knew their every shade and meaning. Nothing in them lay unrevealed. He was familiar with the direct gaze denoting finance, the confidential gaze denoting scandal, the patient gaze denoting servants, the motherly gaze denoting superiority, and the martyred gaze denoting dyspepsia. Suddenly, Mr. Topper realized what was troubling him. It was eyes. Old, familiar eyes. He felt that he knew them all. He knew the eyes at the office, from the presidents to the elevator boys. It was surprising, he thought, how desperately well he knew eyes. Mr. Topper saw eyes. Mr. Topper understood them. And he had an uncomfortable feeling that they understood him. Now, however, he was alive to the fact that Scollop's eyes escaped all classification. This both pleased and shocked him. He realized that in spite of 4 years of close companionship, he had not the slightest idea of Scollop's private opinion of him, or of anything else, for that matter. To what was going on behind her eyes, Topper had no clue. Mr. Topper found himself thinking that it would be a relief to have someone look at him in the manner of Scollop's. Preferably a woman. Not that Mr. Topper was loose or romantic, or both. He had never loitered to pluck forbidden flowers beside the marital path, but had mechanically kept to his schedule, with Mrs. Topper at one end and the office at the other. Once, in his youth, he had nerved himself to lurch in reckless pursuit of a shop girl in a skating rink, but the meeting with her had been so sudden and demolishing that when he arose from the dust of the floor, he departed with a far sharper pain in his spine than in his heart. After that, he confined his amorous pursuits to the nice girls of his own set. He never called on them alone, but always with a jolly company of youths, which gave him a sense of security. Later, he had met Mrs. Topper, who had already achieved individuality through smoldering dyspepsia, and he had decorously followed her through a summer of neat suburban Sundays, after which he had made the arrangement permanent in the presence of an orderly gathering of neat suburban property owners. And that ended that side of Mr. Topper. Now, however, he was getting along. Nearly 40 and acquiring flesh. 10 years married. He neither had to stretch to reach the electric light, nor stoop to walk under the bulb. His face was unremarkable, save for his eyes, which were extremely blue and youthful, as if the fire in them had been banked for the sake of conservation. His features would have been delicate had his appetite not been so good, or his habits less sedentary. Had their union been blessed with issue, one of the children, probably Cosmo Jr., would have been a sandy blonde like his father, for Mr. Topper's hair was of an indifferent shade. But there were no little Toppers. Scollop's was undisturbed. He rose, stretched, and walked to the window. Scollop's merely stretched and resumed her repose, with the austere resignation characteristic of cats when bent on slumber or theft. "Guess I'll go for a walk," said Topper. "I'm in need of a bit of a change." "There'll be a roast for dinner," replied Mrs. Topper. "Lamb," she added as he left the room. "You like lamb." Mr. Topper winced as he collected his hat and stick. Why should he be thus openly reminded that he liked lamb? Couldn't a person creep up on a roast and surprise it sometime? As a matter of fact, he was not particularly lustful for lamb, or at least he would strive hereafter to dissemble his emotions. But all he said was, "Good!" The exclamation point stuck in his throat. Chapter 3. Mr. Topper Pursues the Sun. The street down which Mr. Topper strolled was a nice street. No one needed to feel ashamed of it. No one did. And the people who lived on this street had nice homes, nice, neat homes with well-groomed lawns,